The rain hammered against the kitchen window, a relentless rhythm that mirrored the pounding in Susan's chest. A week had passed since she found Michelle, her neighbor, lifeless under the ancient oak at the end of the street. The police investigation had stalled, a blurry CCTV image of a hooded figure their only lead. Susan, however, couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, a nagging sense of unease that had taken root in her soul. The life she'd known, a carefully orchestrated ballet of grocery lists and yoga classes, now felt suffocating. Each night as the rain lashed against her windows, Susan found herself drawn back to the scene of Michelle's death, replaying the events in her mind, searching for a clue, a piece of the puzzle that would unravel the mystery. She couldn't escape the suspicion that lingered around Michelle's husband, John. He had been out the night of her death, his alibi flimsy, his demeanor evasive. His quiet intensity, the depth in his eyes, made Susan uneasy. Was it possible? Could John have... One night, after weeks of sleepless nights and endless cups of strong coffee, Susan decided to take a chance. She stumbled upon Michelle's laptop, left unattended during the investigation, and discovered an encrypted folder, its contents protected by a password. Desperate for answers, she tried a few possibilities. Michelle's birthday, her dog's name, even the name of their favorite coffee shop. Nothing worked. Exhausted, she slumped back in the chair, the laptop screen reflecting the flickering light of the storm outside. Suddenly, she noticed a small silver necklace tucked beneath the keyboard, a delicate chain with a single, unassuming charm. It was a tiny silver key. A surge of adrenaline shot through her. Could it be? Michelle's password might be tied to this key. Susan's heart pounded as she scanned her memories, trying to remember if she'd ever seen Michelle wearing this necklace. Then, it hit her. A vivid memory surfaced. The day Michelle had received the key, a gift from John, a gift he had presented with a mischievous twinkle in his eye. The key had been hidden in a small velvet box, a replica of an antique keyhole charm. Susan typed in "keyhole" and hit enter. The folder clicked open, revealing a torrent of emails, each one encrypted with a different password. She spent the next few hours deciphering the messages, her heart pounding as she read each cryptic line. The emails were a window into a secret world, a world Michelle had kept carefully hidden from everyone, including her husband. They were filled with clandestine meetings, hushed conversations, and veiled threats. A world of intrigue and danger, a world that had led her to her untimely end. As Susan delved deeper into the digital labyrinth, she stumbled upon a series of emails between Michelle and a man named Ethan. The messages spoke of a financial transaction, a deal gone wrong, and a betrayal of trust. The emails detailed a clandestine deal involving a shipment of rare, high-value artifacts. Michelle had been tasked with facilitating the transaction, but something had gone awry. She had accused Ethan of double-crossing her, claiming he had planned to keep the artifacts for himself. Ethan was a shadowy figure, his identity hidden behind a veil of anonymity. He seemed to be involved in some kind of illegal activity, his emails dripping with a chilling air of danger. His threats to Michelle were thinly veiled, his language laced with a cold, calculating menace. Ethan's words were filled with a chilling urgency, each sentence dripping with a sense of impending doom. He spoke of consequences, of debts that needed to be settled, of the price of betrayal. His words were a stark reminder of the power he wielded, a power that could extinguish lives as easily as a flickering candle. Susan realized that Michelle's death was no accident. It was a calculated act of violence, orchestrated by someone who wanted to silence her forever. But who was Ethan? Why had he targeted Michelle? And what role did John play in all this? As the storm raged outside, Susan knew she had to find Ethan. She had to uncover the truth behind Michelle's death, and she had to bring the killer to justice. The weight of responsibility felt like a crushing burden, but Susan was determined to see it through. She took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, her mind racing. Ethan's email address was a simple, generic one, but Susan had a hunch that it was a gateway to the world Michelle had kept so meticulously hidden. She was determined to break through the veil of secrecy, to expose the truth hidden behind the anonymity. She typed in the message, her hands trembling slightly. She was stepping into the unknown, into a world where the lines between reality and illusion blurred, where shadows held secrets, and where the truth could be as dangerous as it was liberating. "Ethan," she wrote, "I know what you did. I have the evidence. Meet me at the old lighthouse tomorrow at dawn. Come alone." She hit send, her heart pounding in her chest. The email echoed in the silence of the storm-ravaged night, a message of hope and fear, a plea for justice in the face of a darkness that threatened to consume them all. Susan knew that her decision was a dangerous one. She was facing an unknown enemy, a man who had proven himself capable of violence. But she was no longer willing to live in fear. She was determined to bring Michelle's killer to justice, even if it meant risking her own life. The storm outside raged on, the wind howling like a banshee. But inside the small, cozy kitchen, a different kind of storm was brewing, a storm of determination, a storm of hope, a storm that would not be silenced. As dawn broke, casting a pale, ethereal light over the rugged coastline, Susan stood at the edge of the cliffs, her gaze fixed on the weathered silhouette of the old lighthouse. The storm had subsided, leaving behind a damp, windswept silence. She waited, her heart pounding in her chest, each passing moment stretching into an eternity. Suddenly, she saw him. A tall, imposing figure emerged from the mist, his features hidden by the shadows of a hooded cloak. He approached her slowly, his gait measured and deliberate. "You should have stayed away," he said, his voice low and menacing, each syllable tinged with a chilling menace. "You're digging into things that don't concern you." Susan met his gaze, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hand. "I knew Michelle. I know what you did." He laughed, a harsh, humorless sound that echoed through the empty landscape. "You don't know anything. You're playing a dangerous game, little girl, and it's a game you're going to lose." But Susan stood her ground, her determination unwavering. She had come too far, risked too much to turn back now. She knew she couldn't trust the police, not anymore. She had to bring Ethan to justice herself. "I've got the evidence," she said, her voice rising above the wind. "I know about the artifacts, about the double cross. I know you're the one who killed her." Ethan's laughter faded, replaced by a look of icy fury. He reached into his coat, and for a moment Susan thought he was going to pull out a weapon, but instead he produced a small silver keyhole charm. "You think you know so much," he said, his voice a low growl. "But you're just playing with a keyhole charm, a mere symbol of a door you'll never open." He tossed the charm at her feet, his gaze fixed on her with a chilling intensity. "I suggest you walk away while you still have the chance, but if you insist on playing this game, you'll face consequences. Consequences you won't be able to imagine." As he disappeared back into the mist, Susan picked up the keyhole charm, her fingers tracing its delicate outline. She knew he was right. She had no idea what consequences awaited her, but she also knew that she couldn't let Michelle's death be in vain. She had to find out the truth. She had to find the key to unlock the secrets that had been hidden behind the keyhole charm. As the sun rose, casting its golden rays over the rugged coastline, Susan stood alone on the edge of the cliffs, the keyhole charm clutched tightly in her hand. She had no idea what lay ahead, but she was ready to face it. She was ready to unlock the truth, no matter the cost.